Hey, welcome to the shop. Today we're reviewing the HTP Invertig 221. USA Weld and HTP sent me this machine to share with you, but they didn't tell me anything that I could or couldn't say or pay me for the review, so I'm giving my honest opinion, and I filmed a lot of welding so you could form your own opinion. Now, where does this machine sit in the market? It's quite a bit more expensive than the very most entry-level machine like the Prime Weld that I reviewed a while back. However, it's going to cost you well under half what you'll pay for a similarly equipped machine like a Miller or a Fronius. I think it performs like those professional machines, but we'll get into why here in a minute. Let's look at the package itself. It's very compact and it has a digital control panel on the front. Now, this machine, having been out for several years already, it's a little bit dated when it comes to the control panel. There's multiple button presses that you need to use. For the first week that I was using it, I had the manual in my hands to find the right settings. However, once I got used to it, for the past 5 weeks or so, I've run a few tanks of argon through it and put a few hours on the clock, and I haven't really had to go back to the manuals. Now let's look at the included accessories. It includes a CK brand number 17 torch, and it has a flexible cable. Now, this is one of the most common torches that has lots of accessories available from all over the place, and if I were to buy a 150 amp air-cooled torch today, it'd be this model. So I think it's a big win there. The foot pedal feels nice and operates smoothly, and the ground clamp is nice and sturdy and a little bit overkill, which is great. It includes a floating ball style regulator flow meter as well as the hose to be able to connect it. So you're just going to need some gas, some tungsten electrode and things like that, and it did include a few torch accessories to be able to get started. Now let's get into the welding. So let's start off with some basic material. I'm going to go ahead and clean up this steel here with a brown Scotch-Brite pad and wipe it down with acetone so we can get a nice weld. Now I'll tack this T-joint together, and watch as I tack how crisp the start on the arc is. And that's one of the things that I really think sets this machine apart with more of those professional level machines, is that crisp arc start on both AC and DC, so I can get the arc right where I want it without it wandering around every time. So I got the T-joint tacked up, and the arc is nice and smooth as I work my way along this fillet weld, and I got a result that I'm happy with. Now let's roll in one of the advanced features on here, which is pulse. And I'm running a low frequency pulse here on an outside corner joint on the same thickness, 1/8 of an inch thick or 3mm thick plate. And as I pulse along, I'm just adding a dab of filler metal in between on each high side of the pulse. It helps to maintain pace and just give a nice rippled appearance. Now I'll turn up the frequency on that pulse to 40 pulses per second and run the outside corner on some 1/16 of an inch or 1.5mm thick stainless steel. And I'm going to be running this without any filler metal, which is often called an autogenous weld. And so I just need to trace along that top edge and move my puddle along. And I think this higher frequency pulse on stainless steel works really well because it helps to move that puddle along, and it also helps quite a bit to reduce heat input and distortion, which is a big problem on stainless steel. Now I'll run some aluminum, which is one of the places where this machine really shines. And I'll start out by running a simple T-joint on some 1/8 of an inch thick or 3mm thick aluminum. And I'll just move my way along here without any pulse or anything. Now here's a tip for you. If you are practicing and you want to get the most out of your practice material, after you run a weld, go ahead and go over it with another pass and run a weave like this. And this gives you just another way to practice as you run along here to get more out of your material and really practice the placement of your arc and your weld puddle. Now let's try it out on some 1/4 inch thick material, which is 6mm, and that's about as thick as I'll usually go with a machine in this class. And as I move along here, I am a little bit shaky, but the machine is definitely capable of running this weld on this thickness of plate. Now, with a little bit of helium mixed in the shielding gas or a little bit of preheat, I could go a little bit thicker, but if you're gonna go much thicker than this or be welding, 1/4 inch thick all the time, I'd probably look at the next level up in amperage, which they have an Invertig in 2 different amperages up from this one that you could get. Now, one last run here on aluminum, and this is running a low frequency pulse on an outside corner joint without any filler metal. And I just need to trace along there, and I get a nice stack of dimes look without having to add any filler and a nice rounded corner. Keep in mind you can't run without filler metal in a joint like this with every aluminum alloy, but when you can, it does work quite well. All right, let's go ahead and look at some stick welding. So I'll start off just by running a fillet weld on a T-joint with 1/8 of an inch or 3.2 millimeters 7018, and it's running along nice and smooth. Now I'll just note that they didn't include the lead or the electrode holder for it, but it is a standard DINS connector, so one that I already had in the shop works, or you can pick them up all over the place, including at USA Weld. One neat feature that this has, along with stick welding feature, is that you can run a pulse with it, and I thought that'd be fun to play with. So here I'm gonna go ahead and run an outside corner joint with 7018 running a pulse and see if I can't get that stack of dimes look, just kind of for fun. So as I weld along here, it's pulsing at a low frequency, and it is giving me that nice rippled appearance as I clear the slag off and take a look. I think that's pretty cool to be able to do that with a stick weld. Now if you watch at the end of this run, I'm getting some arc blow. It's pretty common with 7018 to get that at the end of your weld, and what happens is a magnetic field will mess with your arc and you'll start to lose control of your puddle. And there's a few ways to correct this, including how you move your ground or whatnot, but with a machine like this, I can go ahead and just move from DC weld to an AC weld, and that will correct it. And this particular 7018 electrode can run with AC, so I'm able to run right here all the way up to the end of my joint in that same configuration and avoid that arc flow. So it's nice to have that option to run both DC and AC as you stick weld with a machine like this. All right, so this machine really has been a ton of fun to run. I'm excited to use it in future videos and explore some more of the advanced features that it has. I really do feel like it runs at the professional level. The one downside that I saw really was how the interface is a little bit dated, but once you get used to it, it's really not such a big deal. So I think it really is a great option for somebody who wants to have something beyond the entry level that they can grow with and continue to progress as a welder and have something for a really long time that's going to work well for them. Hey, well, thanks for tuning in today. If you want to check one of these out, I'll link their website down in the description below. And if you liked this video, found it helpful, let me know by hitting that thumbs up, and we'll see you next time.